Hi everybody, welcome into the Irish NFL show, another week of NFL action in partnership with Pundit Arena. Folks, it's great to be back. It just seems like there's NFL news every day now at the minute. It's crazy. Great to be joined by Colin, by Brian and by Mark as well. Lads, welcome into the show. It's great to have you on.
It's good to be back talking about games after Thursday with no game. It's nice to actually just get to focus on the football.
Yeah, I agree with Colin. It seems like it's been a long time since we had a slate of games. It's only been a week, but there's been so much to discuss with our Monday and our Thursday shows that it feels like it isn't a normal NFL season. But thankfully, we're back to a great list of games for this weekend.
We got a game a week, a game a day. It seems like at the moment, guys, with the way the slate's pulling out next week. So another couple of delays and chuck another one on the Thursday, another one on the Friday. We'll have a full week of NFL games at some point.
And as of the time of recording, there has been no game pushed back or moved because of a quarterback going down. Broncos and also Dublin are still in the All-Ireland as of the time of this recording. However, let's jump right into it, lads. At the end of the slate of games in this week of NFL action, the NFL will be 75% complete in the regular season. A lot of talk already emerging about the potential postseason bubble. Let's look at a team that will probably play a big part in that for a start. First of all, Colin, the Saints 9-2 going to Atlanta to take on the 4-7 Falcons. How do you see this game going today, Colin?
An interesting one because the Falcons are a different side. It's like they've had two different seasons since they moved on from Dan Quinn. They look a much more competent team. The Saints obviously 9-2 in the driver's seat, but Taysom Hill last week against the Broncos, 78 yards passing, sacked 3 times, and he's been sacked 6 times in his last 2 games. The Falcons were absolutely brilliant last week against the Raiders. Delightful to watch that. 5 sacks, 5 fumbles, recovered 4 of them. They stopped the Raiders on the run. It should be a lot better than it was a couple of weeks ago when the Saints won that game. Julio Jones says he feels good, so he could be in. But the issue for the Falcons is they cannot seem to keep Matt Ryan upright. And I think that is ultimately going to prove the difference for me, the Saints to win this game.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of touched on how suspect the Saints offense has been this season, and we questioned whether they could go all the way because Drew Brees has been inconsistent. But obviously, Brees is out of picture at the moment. Taysom Hill is doing a reasonably good job. He's certainly an explosive threat in the run game, which they kind of need. Kamara's only had one game over 100 yards in the last 27, which you'd never believe looking at those stats because he's such a dynamic player. But the Saints, for me, is about the defense this year. The number 1 defense in the league. The last 4 games, they've conceded only 15 points or less. So they're certainly building towards the number 1 seed, predominantly around that defense. They've got great players such as Cam Jordan, with Brees to come back. And in years gone past where Brees has been injured, they always felt to be a similar kind of Peyton Manning scenario when the Broncos brought him back in that year, that they bring him in fresh for the playoffs. And I think that's the aim at the moment. Was Hill is playing well and he's doing a reasonably good job at quarterback. I think the plan obviously is to get Brees back in at some stage, and hopefully he's fresh and the offense kicks into gear. And if they do, with a defense like they have, it's hard to see how they wouldn't be, certainly in the championship game. For this game, yeah, I don't see past the Saints. We thought the Falcons would run them close a couple of weeks ago. It never materialised. And I think the Saints, albeit the game is in Atlanta, I think the Saints will win comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints are an archetypal example of what a great draft can do for a team. They were in salary cap hell a couple of years ago. Brees was coming towards the end of his career, and everyone was saying, well, how are you even going to make a contender out of this? They had an unbelievable draft, headlined by people like Lattimore and Kamara, but also starting right guards. I mean, the amount of starting snaps they got out of that one key draft is unreal. But they're all coming up to their extensions, or they're, some of them already got them, like in Kamara. So that whole fantastic draft, this in many ways is the last chance saloon, not just for the team structure they've created, but obviously Brees himself, injured this season. It's got a lot of echoes of Peyton Manning's last season, I would say, in the Broncos. Probably Brees' play has been to a higher quality, don't get me wrong, but at the same token, He's been injured, which hasn't been the case for his career, and he hopes it ends in the Super Bowl ring, like Manning's does, obviously. 2 weeks ago when these teams played, I mean, it always seems like these teams play twice in 3 weeks every season. I don't know why the schedulers have this quirky nature to it, but it does come up regularly. 2 weeks ago, I actually picked the Falcons. I thought they were getting momentum together. I didn't think and see how Taysom Hill necessarily would mesh straight away, and felt that the Falcons had a chance. They got completely blown out. But now they're coming back off their most complete game of the season, as Colin alluded to, a 43-6 shellacking of the Raiders. And whilst I don't want to read too much into Taysom Hill's performance last week, I think the Saints gave a very conservative game plan given the quarterback scenario that the Broncos were facing and dealing with. This has all the hallmarks of being a lot closer than many people think. And in reality, it's a divisional rivalry that are always close. Is always close and are always close. And in this scenario, I get this funky feeling about the Falcons. I mean, maybe I just don't want to see the Saints do well. I don't know, but I just feel that they've got something going on, and they are going to bounce back the stronger from the last game they played together, and maybe nick it on a field goal at the end.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, the Saints were my lock of the week against the Falcons in Atlanta. Pretty much the same this week. They're not my lock of the week, but they win this game comfortably, I think. I like your Brian and Mark. I like what you're saying about Peyton Manning, the comparisons with Drew Brees. I agree. The only reason Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl is the defense. There is no doubt about it. I just can't see how the Falcons are going to beat the Saints, albeit if the game is in Atlanta or not. So I'm going to give the Saints a win today by anywhere from 10 to 14 points. And that is that. Now, there's a lot of games today in the NFL, so we're going to try and maybe bomb through a few ones, right? So, Colin, we've got the Lions and the Bears. I mean, do we need to spend? I mean, one's 4-7, one's 5-6. Do we need to spend
they're
time?
they're still interesting. I mean, because you're looking at a team, right, in the Bears that have lost 5 consecutive games, having started really well. The Lions who've lost 4 of their last 5. A change at head coach for the Lions, a head coach under massive pressure in Nagy with the Bears, I think. And the 2 cities close together, a lot of niggle in that. You've got a situation, a QB for the Bears about what are they going to do. They have their number 2 pick who came back in last week and threw for 3 touchdowns, but he also had a couple of interceptions. He 3 fumbles, though he managed to get 2 of them back. There's lots to look at in this, I think. I see that the Lions have made some moves and they've released Marvin Hall, which is interesting. So they're clearly looking towards the youth side of things. Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift are obviously the future there, and that's what they're going to build on. Stafford, his top 15 QB, as he's shown. Akeem Hicks looks like he's back for the Bears, but Mack might be out. But that said, the Lions just being where they are, the Bears historically have their number in this, and I think that probably continues. But I think this could be a more interesting game than some expect.
Yeah, so a lot of teams are beating the Bears these days, but one of them is not the Lions. They've actually beaten the Lions 5 games in a row. And I look at the Lions in terms of how their performances are going. Stafford hasn't thrown for more than 1 touchdown in 5 of the last 6 games. They've lost by plus 10 points in 4 of the last 5. The offense, which is, normally you'd see very high explosive games with the Lions, and it tends to be the defense that lets them down and they put up high numbers, but they're not even doing that on offense. And I know the Bears have their problems offensively as well, but I still think by and large that Bears defense is good enough to win this game. And for that reason in particular, I'm going to lean towards the Bears to win the match.
Yeah, Michael, this is super interesting. For the Lions, ding dong, the witch is dead. I bring to mind W.H. Auden's poem Epitaph on a Tyrant. And the last 2 lines he said on it were, when he laughed, respectable senators burst with laughter. And when he cried, the little children died in the streets. I mean, that last piece is very reminiscent of what Matt Patricia's reign of terror seems to have been like in the Detroit Lions, because the stories are not just trickling out now, they are flowing out. And when you've got people like Kenny Golladay liking posts on Instagram where people are ripping the removal of Matt Patricia, yeah, no, maybe he wasn't the most liked person in that building. I actually think that, you're looking at the scenario like the Falcons have with Raheem Morris this year, like many teams have with an interim coach or a coach that is perceived to be disliked and they're freed from his, the Robespierre reign of terror being marked upon them. They often surprise. They bounce back. The players have to kind of look at themselves and say, well, we hated him. We hated the regime. We hated the way he did things. So now we need to lift our performance, and we have to show it wasn't us. It was him all along. So I actually expect and I demand an improved performance for the Lions. Yeah, of course, every time you rely on the Lions for anything, they disappoint you. But the Bears have been a pretty big disappointment this season. So, let's go with General Motors, Ford, and the Detroit motor car industry to bounce back strongly. Detroit to win it by a touchdown.
A touchdown.
And you
The
said this game
Bears.
wasn't interesting, there, Michael.
Well, I mean, it's not because neither team's going to make the playoffs.
I know.
I know, but it is what it is. The Bears lost how many games in a row? 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're going to lose 5 in a row today against the Lions team. I agree.
6.
Mark, 6. Well, that's even worse. Let's make it worse. I completely agree with what Mark's saying. I think Patricia and Quinn being out now, the players will want to prove to everybody watching that they're not as bad as everybody says they are, and it was all on Patricia and on Quinn. This is now a big moment in the Lions franchise history because they need to try and get back on a path. I just think they're going to win this game because the Bears are absolutely awful this season. They came in so well, and now to do this today, it's just disappointing. It would be funny though to just see the Lions go on a run, boys, wouldn't it? The last 5-6 games this season.
Yeah, but then you could argue that they've been cheating their head coach all along. They're able to go out and win these games.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, Michael, one final point. Like these two teams are probably going to have two of the more intriguing off-season decisions in the league. Colum's already alluded to Matt Nagy, but as we briefly touched on the Thursday night, the Monday Night Football show before, what are the Lions actually going to do with Matt Stafford? And when's the right time to move on from him? So this could be a complete clean sweep from them in the off-season. So, that there's intrigue. There's always intrigue.
Maybe the Bears will trade for Matt Stafford.
Play a swap with Trubisky,
yeah. They could do worse.
Who knows what's going to happen? I think that's the great thing about the NFL, though. There's always going to be an intriguing off-season. I think this season more than any other as well, with everything that's going on. Colts 7-4 against the 4-7 Texans. Column, that game is in Houston. What's your thoughts on it?
Watson versus the Colts secondary. That should be a fascinating matchup. Rivers against the Texans pass rush. But Will Fuller is suspended, and they have taken away Watson's favorite toy. I mean, Fuller went off in the final game before suspension, 175 yards. They do have Brandon Cooks, but he's not the same type of player. I mean, to lose Hopkins and now Will Fuller, I think Watson is a fantastic QB, but he's gone up against the third best pass defense. The Texans are the 31st pass defense. This is a passing league. It's the Colts going to move on to 8-4 for me.
And just to weigh in on top of what Colin was saying there, they've also since that Thanksgiving game, I believe, released Kenny Stills as well. They've let him walk, and he's available in the waiver wire. So now they've lost. Well, Hopkins was long gone, but they've lost 2 wide receivers in the past month. At the same time, Watson is improving as the season has gone on. He hasn't shown an interception in the last 6 games, which coincides with when Romeo Crennel took over. The offensive line seems to be improving. But then you look at their defense, and they've given up over 100 yards per runner, and Jonathan Taylor's back for the Colts. These divisional games, in particular that division, are crazy. Teams just seem to knock each other off, even when teams having a bad season. And even last week, the Colts, who were favourites in that game against the Titans, got completely beaten up, which wasn't as a surprise to us. I'm actually going to go with the Texans. I picked the Colts a few weeks ago more so because I felt Rivers had the number on Rodgers because of previous games and the history that comes with that. But for this game, I actually think the Texans will line up well enough. I think the Texans will win. Cause an upset.
I wish I shared your optimism on that, Brian. Texans, for me, they've lost their best cornerback and their best wide receiver to drug suspensions. We could do a show. We could do a bloody investigative journalism degree, I think, on what's happening in the Texans front office, particularly Jack Easterby, who's grown from being a character coach to now effectively being a default interim GM. I've heard noises about this. We heard noises even the way he left the Patriots actually to go to the Texans. There were a few things. Usually, Belichick's quite effusive about people and saying, "I wish them all the best." But when somebody leaves in the wrong way, Eric Mangini, he doesn't hide his feelings. And actually, Easterby is one of the few that's fallen into that category. If you look at the Texans website page and his bio, you would swear that he single-handedly not only won the Patriots Super Bowls, but everything that the Texans have done well in the last while, including roster construction, apparently was all due to him. So how much control he actually has and what occurs in the offseason there, again, the offseason. But I mean, this team isn't getting to the playoffs. They might as well wonder at the offseason. Again, will be interesting. But, I think that's stories to be told there. For the Colts, I'll give you an interesting story here. Rigoberto Sanchez, actually, their punter, is gone for this game. He's actually had surgery to remove a cancerous tumor. So we obviously all hope he recovers well. But it does mean at the time of recording, the Colts don't have a punter on the team. And our good friend Rodrigo Blankenship, the Egon Spengler of the NFL with his wonderful glasses, has been taking snaps with the punt team as well. So whether he double duties for the game, that might be interesting to see. But frankly, I don't see the Colts punting much, and I definitely don't see them losing this game.
Yeah, like if I have a boy, or you know what, even if I have a girl, I'm going to call my first child Rodrigo Blankenship, lads. Look, the Broncos and the Texans have got one thing in common, Colin, and that is that they're both 4-7. The thing that they haven't got in common is the Texans have a quarterback. The Broncos are nowhere near it at the minute. I have the Colts winning this game, however, just in regards to what Brian said, having Jonathan Taylor back, I think is going to be the major difference. They're my lock of the week. There you go. I think there'll be too much for them.
The lock of the week, and is there breaking news there for us on baby names? Is there?
Absolutely. Can I just say, absolutely not. There's your Pundit Arena exclusive.
Nothing to disclose live on the
absolutely not. No, and I can say that just really chilled. No. Absolutely not. I tell you what, folks, and we've said it all. We've said it previously, gentlemen, that this show is recorded prior to the Dublin Cavan game. So let's see how Brian's form on Monday on the Monday Night Football show. If Dublin lose to the Breffni County, I'm only joking, gentlemen. I'm only joking. Thank you for that, though, Brian. Appreciate it.
No problems.
I think you're crying laughing there. Right. Todd McCryan, the Bengals 2-1 against the Dolphins 7-4. Colin, let's go, man. Dolphins, yeah.
Yeah, Dolphins got back on track last week. Fitzmagic, Parker, that's what they want. The Bengals have no offense; they just don't. The Dolphins have a very good defense. You're talking about the team that's best at stopping teams on third down against one of the worst teams at converting on third down. The Dolphins are going to win this. It'll be. They won't put up massive points, but the Bengals will be lucky to break 10.
Well, Brian, as Alex Ferguson said, squeaky bum time. It was definitely squeaky bum time last week against the Giants, 19-17. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, our defense stood up and managed to get us over the line. Bizarre game. We never put them away. Should have put them away. But anyway, on to this one. Brandon Allen is still going to play a quarterback for the Bengals. Can't get anything going on offense. At the time of recording, we still don't know. We're not sure who's going to play quarterback for the Dolphins, but I really don't think it matters if it's Tua or if it's Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's an ideal game, really, in a way for the Dolphins. You would think to get a little bit more out of Tua and see that he's progressing. So the quarterback do you expect, or are they looking at the situation where we really have an opportunity to drive for this wild card? And the best bet at this stage is to continue with Fitzpatrick. Either way, they're winning. I'd imagine their special teams has just been fantastic all year with blocking punts and returning kickoffs and punts will have a big say in the game as well. So I could see them winning this game comfortably, but may not necessarily be by quarterbacks from the offense, maybe coming from special teams as well. Definitely a Dolphins win, very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, guys, the Bengals. Brian's not going to like this, but the Bengals should have actually won last week.
I
They,
picked
they
them to win.
actually should have won that game. And that was, I don't know whether that said more about the Bengals' fighting spirit or more about the Giants just not performing the way they. The Giants have been that plucky upstart all season where they kind of been close and just throwing away games, but you can see the spirit to core, you can see the attempt. And that Bengals game was almost the first game all season they've been the favorite for a game. And it sounded, it was like they had stood up too quickly and wanted to fall over or something. I don't know. The Bengals should have won that game.
Mark, if Daniel Jones doesn't get injured in the third quarter, that game would have been 20 points. The quarterback injury completely changed the situation of the game.
Right, woulda, coulda, shoulda. At the same token, the Bengals didn't win. I'm saying they should have, but they didn't. So the Giants did squeak out the win. But it ain't about the Giants. It's about the Bengals. It's about not having enough with Brandon Allen in that place. It's about the Dolphins winning 6-7, about to go to 7 of 8. Fully agree. Doesn't matter if they start Fitzpatrick or Tua. And in fairness, guys, if I was Brian Flores here, I would absolutely start Fitzpatrick, give Tua another week to recover, get healthy. Hopefully, he'll have more important games ahead for the Finns this season.
He will, because the Dolphins are going to go 8-4. Cricket score for me. Rugby score. 30 points. Not even a discussion. I've seen enough, and Colin has definitely seen enough of Brandon Allen to know about that. Here,
live and living picture.
I'm just going to give my pick for this next one. I'm going to go against all protocol. I've got the Vikings beating the Jags. The Jags are 1-10. The Vikings are 5-6. Colin.
No, because there is, again, like this game it's a story about two unheralded rookies. Okay, go back to the draft. Okay, and everyone talked about Judy, everyone talked about Ruggs, everyone talked about CeeDee Lamb. Who talked about Justin Jefferson? No one talked about Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson hasn't just been the best rookie wide receiver, he has been one of the best wide receivers in the league. Kid is absolutely phenomenal. Apparently, he is going to cost somebody in Philadelphia their job because they didn't pick him. And I think the only good news story coming out of Jacksonville is James Robinson, their undrafted free agent signing.
For a second there.
He's been absolutely brilliant. He's been there, Philip Lindsay. It's a great news story. It's the only thing they have, and they won't have anything today either, because the Vikings actually go back to 500 and they go to 6-6.
Yeah, despite that poor, disappointing performance the week before, where they lost to the Cowboys, when we all thought they'd win that game, they rebounded very well last weekend and showed a bit of fighting spirit, because there was two bizarre fumbles, play after play, in which the same player from the Panthers returned them for touchdowns. And in fairness, in other games, the Vikings would have folded, but they're going for 5 out of 6 wins. They are on a bit of a roll, and the Jags have given up 24 plus points on defense in the last 10 games. So I would expect Cousins, who was the player of the week last week, to maybe be the player of the week again this week, and it'll be a whipping show here for the Vikings.
How Cousins was the player of the week last week with the performances from Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, and all is beyond me. That's just goo-goo, to be frank.
You like that?
You like that?
Oh, I don't like that at all. I don't like Kirk Cousins this season at all as well, and how he's generally performed. I mean, Colin's referring there to our Wookiee rookie. The reality is that the Vikings rely so much on their own Han Solo, Dalvin Cook, to slash through defenses like he's in his Millennium Falcon. Over 2,200 scrimmage yards already for Dalvin Cook on the season. Justin Jefferson has been great. The problem is the rest of the Vikings team constantly lets them down. That Cowboys loss. I mean, if they hadn't lost to the Cowboys, they'd be sitting now at 6-5, and you would be saying, with the Rams and the Cards slightly slipping up, hey, there's a real wild card battle there now. But I just think they have too much ground to make up. That being said, yeah, absolutely, you can't see past them. They are not going to run into Jeremy Chin every week for his 2 fumble recoveries for touchdowns. I think in the first occasion that's ever occurred in the NFL, actually, same player, 2 consecutive plays, fumble recoveries, touchdowns. The Jags won't have enough. But I'm just going to say this a word of caution, guys. I remember last week, and we're going to come back to Falcons Raiders game again, and we couldn't see how the Falcons could win this game, and they got absolutely obliterated. The Raiders got absolutely obliterated. So any given Sunday, I won't give you the full Al Pacino speech, but it's why we love the NFL as well, because everything is not for long, and who knows.
You're talking about the Vikings. They could have been maybe 6-5. One team that is 6-5 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, before I talk to Colin and get the opinions, they're going up against the Jets, who are 0-11. I'm picking the Jets this week. I'm picking the Jets.
Okay.
I'm picking the Jets.
You haven't picked them to date, have you? This is the first week you picked them?
First week, I think the Jets will win this week. I think the Jets will do the biggest Jet thing ever and win for the Jets. Colin, do you agree with that, or do you think I'm an idiot?
I don't think the Jets. I think I've said it before. The Jets are historically bad. They are bad on every which way. Sam Darnold came back in last week, 2 picks, sacked 3 times, 22 sacks and 7 starts. Well, he's been a disaster. People want to you can pin it on whoever you want. It hasn't worked. The Raiders were no good, very bad. Horrific.
A lot of injuries, Colin. A lot of injuries.
It was delightful to see Derek Carr get sacked 5 times, but even in that loss, the pass defense showed up, and the Jets. I don't see where they get a win from. For me, the Raiders, even if they trip themselves up, lightning won't strike twice. The Raiders are winning this.
Yeah, the Raiders offense is 8. They're 8 ranked in rushing. They've got Booker, who's come in and done a really good job for them this season. Jacobs has been really good. And the Jets can't seem to stop anyone at times on the run. So, yeah, I can see why there's an angle there to why people think the Jets will win. But if I look at the points in which they're scoring, they're averaging only around 13 to 16 points
a game. Are.
No, the Jets. So, what are you saying? In that case, all you really realistically need to do is score about 20 points and you're guaranteed the game. Everyone's focused on whether the Raiders will cover the handicap. They only need to probably score 20 points to know they're going to win this game. The Raiders will win and rebound off a really bad loss last week.
Guys, last week in the NFL, there were some bad performances. There was some bad quarterback play. The last minute of the Chargers game, which we'll come to, was an abomination in coaching and quarterback play. But nothing reached the epoch of awfulness that the entirety of the Raiders organization delivered. From offense, defense, special teams to every part of the coaching organization. If I was a Raiders fan, I would have ripped a spike off one of my shoulder pads and stabbed myself in the eye on multiple occasions. I mean, it wasn't just the 5 turnovers. It was the 11 penalties for 141 yards. It was the roughing the kicker, which turned a missed field goal into a touchdown. It was the face mask, which negated an interception they took. Nothing went right. And this is from a team, bear in mind, that's the only team this season still who has beaten the defending Super Bowl champions and nearly bet them for a second time only the week before. I mean, I actually would say that game and that defeat is the worst collapse in terms of the plummeting from a summit of any team in the NFL this season. I mean, this is Icarus flying up to the sun, failing to heed the warnings for Daedalus, and then not only crashing down, but submerging under the sea until they sink to the very bottom of the Mariana Trench. I mean, it is an abomination. The good thing for them is they're playing the only team in the NFL who's also sinking at the bottom of that Mariana Trench and has been there since game 1. The Raiders are missing Josh Jacobs, which is a big loss. Don't get me wrong. That is a huge loss for this game. But whilst they're at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, you may not know James Cameron, who directed Titanic and Avatar. He's a bit funky and weird. And one of the things he did when he made Titanic is he didn't just make an 80% replica of the Titanic. He developed new submarining technology, which allowed them to view the Titanic and now since He's one of the few men that's gone all the way down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest point known to man. James Cameron, I think secretly, guys, is a Raiders fan. And he's going down there, he's going to pick them up, and he's going to bring them back to the surface just to see the light of day again. Of all the games you wanted after that Falcons game, it was to play the Jets. The Raiders will win comfortably and still somehow be in contention.
Jacobs is out, Abrams out, and Farrell as well is out, Farrell is out for the Raiders at a minimum on Saturday's recording of this show. Me and Colin know damn well that Devontae Booker can't hold a football to save his life some weeks. I'm picking the Jets. I think the Jets will win this game. I think the Jets defense will win this game for them. I think Colin was saying a minute ago about how could the Jets get. I think the Jets defense will win this game for them. And if that happens, Chucky is in the biggest hole he's ever going to be in his life. It would be one of the funniest things ever. But I genuinely think the Jets have a chance here. I'm gonna pick them. And that would mean the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Jets, as it stands, would be joined. This is a really good game, though.
Michael,
it actually, sorry, Mark, it actually means Jags will actually then have the number one seed. For whatever the tie-break scenarios are, the Jags would jump up.
Guys, you're missing one thing is you assume the Jets actually want to win this game. If the Jets wanted to win a game this season, they would have fired Adam Gase about 5
But they're going to win last week of the season, Mark.
Started.
Mark, they are going to win in Massachusetts on week 17. Where do you see? They always, I'm telling you, the Jets are going to mess this up. They'll win today and they'll beat yous on the last game of the season. If it even happens with the bubble. But sorry, I didn't mean to butt in. Go ahead.
Not the bubble again.
Bubble King.
We have a really good game to discuss, which is the Browns and the Titans, which is one of the most fascinating games of the week, I think, because you have like the two of the league's top rushing attacks, Derrick Henry going up against Chubb and Hunt. I think that the Browns are going to be a little bit lost because apparently the weather in Nashville is actually going to be quite nice. I think but it will be really interesting to see it. This is a huge game for Baker Mayfield because in the games that the Browns have lost this year, they've been against teams with winning records: the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Raiders. And Baker has been awful. He has been absolutely terrible, and they can't afford to have him be terrible. He needs to show up. They've been able to lean on Chubb and Hunt, who are an incredible duo, and they both of them just wear you down. But they actually have to have Baker show up for me to have any chance in this game. The fact that they are getting Myles Garrett back is a good sign because he, alongside the likes of Aaron Donald and Vaughn, he's the guy you actually really have to game plan against. But I still think, even though when it comes to the crunch, I wonder about this Titans team. But we're in December. This is when Henry tends to really come to the fore. I think the Titans win this game today.
Yeah, and just to Colin's point, isn't it just as well they have a really strong run game that's averaging 108 yards per game because Baker Mayfield just hasn't shown up this year. I know he got dropped in a real difficult defeat. He got taken out earlier in the season, but he's played every game since. They have the worst record in the NFL of all the years in terms of turnovers for a team that has an 8-3 record. So they're 30th ranked offense in the league for a reason. Even when Odell Beckham was there, they still weren't consistent. They may have had a slight drop off since he's gone. He did throw a touchdown last week, which was his first from to throw in 4 to 5 games. Every stat you look at from a Browns offense perspective just doesn't match up well against this Titans team. And Derrick Henry will run all over these guys. Despite having Myles Garrett back. And the Titans will win. In my opinion, this could be a blowout game. Titans will win comfortably.
It's funny for me. I don't know. Cavan or Tip making the All-Ireland semis, or the Browns and the Titans both being 8-3 and in a really meaningful game. I don't know what's the biggest surprise. It's highly interesting for me, obviously, in terms of the playoff implications. Browns won't catch up with the Steelers, but obviously leading the way for that 5th seed in the first wild card. and Titans just trying to stay ahead of the Colts. Of course, that big win last week, that amazing first half performance by Henry, really blew them away. Couldn't agree more with Colin. Like, comparison of the running game is key. Chubb and Hunt are the only duo running backs who are both over 700 rushing yards in the NFL this season. And it really is about Chubb and Hunt versus Henry more than anything. Who's going to have the bigger impact? I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I don't think I trust him to open a beer for me, to be honest with you. And Ryan Tannehill knows his role, and actually he's performed his role quite well and quite admirably during this season. I'll give you another X factor. I don't know. Special teams are kind of nudging me this season. Steven Gostkowski started obviously that horrible week 1 performance, got things back on track, started to miss a few kicks again. He's actually missed 10 kicks on the entire season, 2 PATs and 8 field goals. That's a huge number for a kicker, especially one as consistent as him. And I just believe that one day that's really going to bite the Titans. It did in the first few games of the season, but it's going to really bite them. And I actually think it could be this game. Mayfield, they kept it simple with him last week. Drag route to Landry, crossing route to Landry, stick route to Landry. They were about the 3 passing plays they allowed him to do, it seemed like, every time I watched it. If they keep it simple, stupid, the Browns will just have enough with Garrett back.
I have such a soft spot. Yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry. I was just going to say, I have such a soft spot for the Titans after they've given me, in what's been an awful year, they gave me that moment of euphoria in January when Tom was never inevitable again, and it was just amazing, and I really hope they go far this season. Doc, no, I'm being serious. It's probably up there, top 5 days in this year for me. Quite sad, isn't it?
Pick 6, yeah.
Beautiful. Jim Nance didn't know what to say. Anywho, Derrick Henry, I agree with Brian, blowout. 40-ish points. There's no way the Browns are getting any more than 23 points in this game. But I mean, just finally, as a Broncos fan, I now look at any quarterback in a different light after last week. Even Joe Namath would have done a better job than what we had last week. So, Baker, I mean, okay, he's having his struggles, but I think he'll come back. I do. Will Drew Lock come back? We'll talk about that in about 10 minutes. Going into the late state of games, gentlemen, LA Rams against the Arizona/San Francisco Cardinal 49ers. The Cardinals, first time they're meeting this season, lads. They haven't played since last December. Colin, what's your thoughts? Obviously, the Rams 7-4, Cardinals 6-5.
Yeah, two teams that lost last week on the last play of the game. So both looking to bounce back after that. I suppose one of the most interesting things about this is going to be Hopkins versus Jalen Ramsey. That should be fascinating to watch how that goes, especially with Hopkins probably looking to bounce back. After Gilmore really shut him down and did a real number on him, so you expect he'll want to show. The worry for both of these is offenses are stalling. The Cards having been really hot and put up 30+ points in I think 5 games. Seattle and the Patriots kind of shut them down, so that's a big worry. In terms of the Rams, Goff was so bad last week that he drew the ire of his own head coach, Sean McVay. Like, McVay doesn't get annoyed at anyone, it would appear, least of all his own players. But for him to come out and to say that he has to take better care of the football, I mean, that's the equivalent of the Ferguson hairdryer when it comes to Sean McVay. I would be worried if I was Jared Goff. This I think is a really interesting game, really tight, could go either way. But McVay is 6-0 against the Cards, and I think he continues that, and the Cards continue to slide, and the Rams move on. They're 8-4.
Yeah, just on that slide, and that column was just touched on there at the end. They really could have lost 3 in a row. They were fortunate to get away with the Hail Murray, as Mark like to call it. They then the following week lost in Seattle, and then they lost last week against the Patriots. In the first drive of the Seattle game, Murray got injured. He was questionable last week. In those two games, he's ran for 31 yards and 15 yards. He's slowed up considerably to what we would expect to see. I'm not sure that he has overcome that injury just yet because, again, this week there's been a lot of conversations around is he ready to play? And then you come up against a Rams defense that has only given up 20 plus points in 5 games this year. Despite the concerns around Goff, I'm leaning more towards the Rams defense winning the game for them and holding Murray in check. And if you hold Murray in check and don't allow him out on the perimeter to run the ball, their offense is not the same. And I think the Rams will win.
Yeah, two frustrating losses for both these teams last week. And as Chuck Noll once said, he said, a life of frustration is inevitable for any coach whose main enjoyment in life is winning. It's a great line about frustration. So, the Rams have the Cards number. McVay has never lost to the Cards. They've won 6 straight. They've actually won 5 straight in Arizona. I agree with Brian about Murray's impact has been more limited in recent weeks, especially in the rush game. And that Rams defense, gents, is serious. I mean, they're ranking number 1 in points allowed, 17 points per game. Only 4.4 points in the second half of games, which just shows you the coaching and the players adapting to whatever the other side is trying to do and just shutting it down. I'm big on the Cards. I still think they're in prime position for the wild card. I still want them to make the wild card. I want them to do it for Larry Fitz. But I honestly think the Rams are, if you want a lock of the week for me, actually, they're my lock of the week. I love this game. And I love the Browns game because all the teams have something to play for. But I can't see past the Rams.
The Rams are a serious dark horse at 7-4. Serious dark horse at 7-4 with that roster they have there. Like Cam Akers going off last week. He's not even the starting running back for this team. Jared Goff looks really sound, man. And again, I guess I'm biased because I haven't seen a quarterback play in a while for us, but they look really good. Really, really good. And Brian and Mark, you've sort of mentioned there yourselves, boys. Obviously, McVay 6-0 against the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals will win this game. I think the Cardinals will maybe struggle towards the end of the season. Come out really strong. And you boys are right. Like, if it wasn't for that Hail Murray play, where would they be sitting at right now? So I'm going to take the Rams going 8-4. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Now, here we go. Do you know what? We'll let Brian start this one off, Colin.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm interested to hear his thoughts on this game.
4-7, New York Giants against the 8-3 Seattle Seahawks. All right, Brian, 4-7. Just about managed to get over Cincinnati last week. You got Colt McCoy starting this week against Russell Wilson in Seattle. Please, I've had a really bad week and I need a laugh. So please give me whatever you need.
No, I'm just going to say this season, in many ways, is a tale of 2 seasons because at the start of the season, when we weren't winning games and Daniel Jones was very inconsistent and was giving away a lot of picks in games that we could have won if it wasn't for those picks, people were considering him potentially as not the answer in the long run. And then you fast forward a couple of weeks and the disappointment amongst the fans this week because having got on a road and won 3 games, and I know 2 of them are within the division, still won 3 games in a row. And unfortunately now he's not going to play. So a game that was always going to be very difficult. It's one of the games you look at the schedule and, realistically, we ain't getting a win in Seattle, 12 man or no 12 man. And then you got Colt McCoy. The only hope I have on the McCoy situation, and I know I'm grasping here, is the fact that he's had a week to get bedded into the offense. Like any quarterback comes into a game in the 3rd quarter is going to be rusty when they haven't played for a year. And that was evident last week. But that defense for the Seattle is 32nd in the league for a reason. They haven't been good. Okay, they played reasonably well the past 2 weeks, but they're still giving up an average of 23, 24 points a game. And the Giants defense has been very good all year. And I do believe we can slow Wilson down. We won't win the game. We won't get blown out. I think we'll lose by 7 to 10 points.
I hate to break it to you, Brian, but having a week to prepare is generally a bad thing for backup QBs. They're much better when they come in.
Try 12 hours, Colin.
Well,
Yeah.
when they're not even a QB, but for real backups, coming in is much easier. Your opposition doesn't have time to plan. Look, Joe Judge will have the Giants up for this game. I've no doubt about that. But Metcalf just went off in the last game, and Seattle have the running game back. I think they'll be too strong, and they will move on to 9-3.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
sorry, one quick point, Mark. We're kind of fortunate because obviously we may have different picks on the rest of the game, but I believe that come Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, when the Cowboys game is finished up, every single team within the division would have lost, and the Giants will still remain on top of the
That's
division.
a disgrace if that happens.
yeah, well, I mean, this is a disgraceful scenario. We're actually talking about a first place matchup here. Like the two teams who are top of their division. Pete Carroll's actually, Colin's greatest friend, Pete Carroll, has been very kind to the Giants in the press. He's been saying that, I remember when the NFC West was the laughing stock, and we were degraded as being the epitome of futility. That was 2010 when they went 7-9, one of only two teams to make the playoffs since the strike season with a losing record. So he's like, I knew we had a good team and the Giants were a good team and things like that. I mean, give me a break. It doesn't matter if Daniel Jones isn't playing. If Daniel Jones was playing quarterback, or Eli Manning was playing quarterback, or Jesus Christ himself was playing quarterback, they are still not winning this game. The Seahawks have 22 sacks over the past 5 games. That pass rush, which was diabolical at the start of the season, has come to strength with the Carlos Dunlap acquisition and Jamal Adams coming back. And I'm sorry, Brian, but the Giants' offensive line is offensive at times. They're not winning this game. You'll still be top of the division. I actually could see that happening, but no, Seahawks. Very simple.
I mean, does anybody want to win the NFC East? It's almost as if it's like,
Or as one New York journal said this week, anybody who says the NFC is deplorable and the Giants are awful haven't watched any Giants games this year. So it's easy to keep throwing us into that bucket.
I'm really tempted.
Thought you were in a hurry.
I am. We're gonna have to breeze through these next 2, and then we get to the biggest team of the week, the Broncos against the Chiefs. But I think the Seahawks will win this game, but I don't think they win it by much. I think they win it by a touchdown. If it wasn't for DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson, I know they're 2 big factors. I would say the Giants have a chance, but the fact that the Giants could be sitting top of their division at 4-8 is a complete disgrace. I mean, just put that division in London. Forget about putting the team in London. Just get me seriously, Eagles staying in the NFC East. Eagles 3-7-1. Packers 8-3. Lads, we need to breeze through these last 2 games at 9 o'clock. Colin, who have you got winning?
Packers stomp the Bears. They're going to stomp all over the Eagles.
Yeah, we joke with the division, but the team at the moment is in the worst crisis is Carson Wentz. The fans have turned against Peterson now as well. It doesn't take long to forget about that Super Bowl win, does it? They keep talking about bringing Jalen Hurts in, but the reality is you're bringing in a rookie quarterback into a dreadful situation, and that's why he hasn't come in. The Packers only give up an average of 1 sack a game, and Rodgers, he's going to have, I would imagine he'll have a very good day, and they'll win comfortably.
The NFC is in crisis because they think it's unfair that the Packers get a second bye week in this season. This is even more of a sure thing than the Seahawks Giants game. Packers will walk this.
The Packers will be 14 up. Jalen Hurts will come in. The Eagles will win. Why not? Why not? I need something to keep me interested. On paper, of course, the Packers are going to win this game. But why not? Why not Philadelphia?
Hey,
Adrian.
On paper,
Adrian, I did it.
It's in the reality it's in Earth. It's not just on paper.
Look, don't worry about reality and paper. I mean, we're talking about the Broncos and the Chiefs in 2 minutes, all right? We'll definitely get down to that in a minute. Lads, 3-8, Los Angeles, San Antonio, San Diego Chargers, bringing the cheat rates, the deflators into town. Really, I'm only joking. I'm a Broncos fan. I'm taking the hand. 5-6 Patriots. We got to breeze because we got to talk about Sunday Night Football. Lads, who have you got winning this game and why?
Well, one point. Austin Eckler came back last week. Most receptions. Lots of fantasy owners very happy. had a huge impact on Justin Herbert, and not for a good reason. Herbert far less aggressive, didn't look like the same QB, got to be more aggressive, can't just look for Eckler all the time. But Patriots are Patriots going back to the 500.
Patriots defense is vulnerable. Chargers, for all the faults this season, are the third best offense in the league. And yeah, fair enough, Colin. Last week they were playing against the Bills, so it might have been a slightly different game plan. They're averaging around 300 yards per game for Herbert. And yeah, I'm surprised that so many people are picking the Patriots. I think the Chargers will win this game.
Marcel Proust wrote a book, A Recherche de Temps Perdu, or Remembrance of Things Past. It's notable because of its extraordinary length, and the Patriots dynasty was the longest dynasty known in North American sports, but that's beside the point. It is now certainly only a remembrance of things past. Cam Newton's quarterback play, being unable to throw a 5-yard out or a flare pass in a straight line, is probably a little bit problematic, some would say. And the Patriots are not a great team. They're doing all right. I mean, they beat the Cards and I didn't expect it. They beat the Ravens and I didn't expect it. But the Chargers quite simply have the hottest rookie known to man. The hottest rookie probably since Christopher Cross won 4 Grammys. Look that one up on Google. But, Justin Herbert, I'm a huge fan of. Excluding the diabolical clock management at the end of the Bills game last week by the Chargers, which was just ridiculous. It really was. I mean, the coach and the quarterback should hang their head in shame, or maybe run a quarterback sneak without their offensive line dropping into pass protection. Things like that help guys. But the Chargers will have too much for the Patriots, and Justin Herbert will be the rookie quarterback that defeats Bill Belichick. Chargers to win.
Oh, shout out to NFL Communications, who have got something wrong on their comm sheet, saying that the Chargers lost 27-27 at Buffalo last week. Ha! Patriots to lose. Joey Bosa have a career day against the Patriots, who will fall to 5-7, and deservedly after years of annoying me every night in January for years.
That's the word. That's the word. Dominance, Michael.
No. I'm never going to accept that. It'll be tight enough. Chargers by a field goal in like the last minute of the game. I think Herbert will have a day. Herbert will be the best rookie quarterback, or the best young quarterback to play today. Cam Newton like a sacked 4 times. Anyway, let's get on to the big game of the week. The game that we're all It's the best to last. Who the hell thought this was a good idea to put this game on? Like, Colin, I've been saying for weeks this is going to be flexed. I have to go to work on Monday morning. The 4-7 Broncos. Welcome back, Drew Lock. Welcome back, Jeff Driscoll. Welcome back, Brett Rippon, and welcome back, Blakey Bortles, because you guys have now got a quarterback. We're going to Arrowhead to play Patrick Mahomes and the 10-1 Kansas City Chiefs. Colin, who have you got, man? Don't let me down.
Oh my God.
Don't let me down.
One team had 456 passing yards last week. The other team had 13. The one team had a player who had 269 receiving yards last week. The top receiver on the other team had 13 yards because the Broncos completed 1 pass. Going to Arrowhead against the Chiefs, and with Bryce Callahan injured, probably the player, second best defender on the team. I had been a believer. I had said that this would be the game when the Broncos went to Arrowhead and won. I cannot see how you beat this Chiefs team with this Broncos team.
So Chiefs are going for 10 in a row. Is it against the Broncos or is it 11? I can't recall.
Worry about your own division, Brian. Worry about your own division. You're 4-7 as it stands.
If I'm trying to find a reason or an angle as to how the Broncos stay competitive in this game, it's the fact that the Chiefs have given up in terms of yards on catches, average of 316 a game. So if your offense, and bypass last week because last week was a write-off, if you have a reasonably good offense this season, you might stay in the game. But the Broncos offense has been inconsistent all year. and there's only so long your defense can keep you in the games against the number one offense in the league. Gunning for number one seed, it has the marks of a blowout, but I don't see it like that way for some reason. I think the game will be reasonably competitive until the end of the third quarter, but that's when I see the Chiefs pulling away and winning by 13, 14 points. I think you might get a reaction out of Drew Lock this week, but I still don't think it's enough, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully you don't get a positive reaction because then you won't have a bunch of quarterbacks again.
Hey, here. Well, do you think they'll move the game then, Mark, or do you think let's make us play a game? Maybe Vic Fangio win a quarterback.
Yeah, I think they'll just leave it there because they're not winning the game. But no, let me stop on that. I don't see the Eagles winning. I don't see the Giants winning, and the Broncos are probably even more of an underdog. But guys, every so often there's a magical moment where, in a great rags to riches story, we see in historical times the plucky young underdog finds this magical way of finding that great, that great ability. Like when you could look at literature, you look at the Lord of the Rings, and the littlest hobbit is the one that saves the day from the depths of evil from Mordor and stuff like that. And when I look at this game and I think about, no, I don't think any of that's going to happen. The Broncos are going to get absolutely obliterated. Tyreek Hill is just going to try and get 270 yards, and the Chiefs are going to walk this game by at least 3 touchdowns. Sorry.
And they definitely won't move the game because they know Michael's in work first team Monday morning.
Well,
I think he's on his way to work because he left us. Oh, here he is.
Oh, the jersey.
It's good to see. We need something, Michael. We are going into this game, and the Broncos in the 3 games under Vic Fangio have been outscored 96-25 by the Chiefs.
You know what? Like, lads, seriously.
We need to do pod soon, guys, about who is going to get fired into the season. There's enough fired during the season, but we mentioned Matt Nagy. Vic Fangio has to be on the hot seat as well.
He's going nowhere. And do you know why he's going nowhere, Mark? Because this is the beautiful thing. Nobody's watching this in RN who are big Broncos fans from maybe people aren't watching this from the franchise. So we can say this. The Broncos don't have an owner. The main thing that the Broncos are worried about this season is getting the team sold. Vic Fangio has literally come out this week in the press. Vic Fangio is going nowhere. So that's why I think the Broncos, who if they lost this game, they'd be 4-8, and spiraling towards the first 6 or 7 pick. That's why I think the Broncos will either win this game by 3 points or be very close to Kansas City, because the Broncos are literally the Man United of the NFL. They have this great prestige history. They have great players. Wait. But we all know what Man United are like at the minute. They'll win 1 week, they'll lose 2 or 3 games in a row. Everybody will start asking questions. Things will happen. People will misbehave. Players will get sent home sick, like Anthony Martial or Drew Lock, for example, who wouldn't wear a mask 2 weeks ago. This is a Missouri kid in a quarterback in Drew Lock that wants to prove people wrong. He's got Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, and a decent defense. He might not have a line, but he's definitely got a chance, lads, against this Kansas City team, who have not went to their next gear yet. They will at some point, but they have a chance.
Michael,
I'm picking the Broncos to win.
Michael, speak.
Sorry, Brian. Sorry, one quick one. All I can recall when you say that is another great quote, and this one's from a movie. Unfortunately, the movie in this instance is Dumb and Dumber. And at the very end, when Jim Carrey asks Lauren Holly, if you got a chance like 1 in 100, she says more like 1 in a million. To which he goes, "Yes, you're telling me there's still a chance." That is what I hear when you say Drew Lock has a chance in this game. It's 1 in a million, buddy.
Michael, I have to say I commend you, because for any NFL fan who wants to be tired on Monday morning and stay up late, you do a good speech in terms of enticing people to stay up. And because you're telling us there's going to be a ding-dong game to the end, and then you just touched on the line there. Yeah, the line I think is around 8.5 to 9.5 points. So yeah, get on the Chiefs to cover that line. Yeah.
Well, I think you're talking about lines and stuff. We all know what's going to happen. McManus will have four field goals plus in this game.
Don't go there. You've upset me before with that line.
I haven't upset you. I think this game will be closer than what the bookies are going to give it. The Broncos are due a win where Colin, the Broncos always get a win every season in the last 4 seasons where it's like, why did we win that game? wouldn't we be better off losing that game in like week 13, 14? They could go on a run. What do you see? They could end up going on a run now for the next 5 weeks, not get to the playoffs, and just screw themselves in the draft. They always do this, Colin. And these last few years.
I would love to beat the Chiefs, but who is going to cover Hill and Kelsey? Because if you double team on Hill, you allow Kelsey the freedom in the middle of the field, and he has done us time and time again. So I think I'd love to see it. It would be delightful, and I'd love to see the response around the rest of the league, including our two friends here on Monday. I just don't see how we do it this week.
It's funny, Colin, because the same thoughts are going through my head for Monday if the Giants somehow pull this off.
Guys, one of the two teams in this game is the defending Super Bowl champion for a reason. And we're not even talking enough about them. They are the class act that are still the class act in the AFC, and they still haven't got out of third gear yet.
Michael, I brought you from the brightness this afternoon into the darkness of my living room, and that's what it's going to be like for you tomorrow night. By the time you hit bedtime, 4:30 in the morning, only to get up for work 2.5 hours later.
Look, we'll be grand. Don't you worry about us now. You're sitting top of your division now. Don't you worry about that. I think the Broncos will win. Why not? Of course, this is the biggest week, Colin, in Drew Lock's career. I think we could talk about this for many hours, laughing at me. But yeah, I think they'll win. Why not? Let's go, lads. Let's shut Patrick Mahomes up. That's right. I said it. Lads, it's been good. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. Make sure you check out Pundit Arena. That's pretty much it for week 13 of the NFL. We'll be back on Monday night with MNF IRE, looking ahead to a few games. We've got the football team playing the Steelers, if it goes ahead on Monday night at 10 o'clock. That game's at 10 o'clock on Monday.
Nice time, yeah.
Okay, and then we got the AFC champion 2020 Buffalo Bills playing the Arizona 49ers. So we'll see you on Monday night for that, gentlemen. We're not going to talk about the Cowboys yet. That's for Tuesday.